Good evening. Welcome to the Pittsburgh Pirates Utopian Baseball Universe Team Preview Show. I'm Joey Buchholz. We've got a great show for you tonight. Jamie Howell is going to join me here shortly. We're going to talk Pittsburgh Pirates baseball. We're going to talk Primanti Brothers. We're going to pick Jamie's brain about umpiring in the minor leagues from 1990 to 1994. And I've been told not to ask him about West Virginia, so we're going to do just that to start the show tonight. But after we talk to Jamie, we're going to unveil the 2021 Pittsburgh Pirates roster for the Utopian Baseball Universe. We'll take a quick peek at some of their bigger games this year. And then at the end of the show, if you have any questions or comments, as you leave them in the comments today, we'll get to those at the end as well. We do have a couple of questions that were submitted for Jamie for his work as an umpire. So we'll get to those as well. Also, if you want to hear your name heard during the telecast for your comments, right above us is a link to click that gives StreamYard permission to use your name. If you don't click that, I'll still see your comment, but it won't say your name. It'll just say Facebook user. So go ahead and click that if you want to hear your name heard tonight. Tomorrow, we've got a great show at 2 o'clock. I'm going to be doing a question and answer from 2 to 3 o'clock Central Time to take all your questions. No guests on that show. It'll just be answering any questions you have, any comments you have about the Utopian Baseball Universe. And then tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, Tim St. Clair and I are going to talk baseball movies and a little bit of Colorado Rockies. But that's for tomorrow. Tonight, like I mentioned, we have Jamie Howell. He's been in the Utopian Baseball Universe for about a week or so, maybe 2 weeks. Let's bring him on right now. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Now, I mentioned that you were an umpire in the minor leagues from 1990 to 1994. But before we
start, I want to give a shout out to my Mountaineers. A lot of people give me a hard time about it. The Mountaineers won 5-3 on a homer in the top of the 10th against Georgia State at Georgia State. So let's go Mountaineers.
Now, was that their first game of the year?
Yes. And since
Nice.
I'm a man of many hats, I'm going to change over to my umpire hat.
A man with many hats. Now, Jamie, tell us about your career as a minor league umpire.
I umpired from 1990 to 1994. I was in the Pioneer League, the South Atlantic League, Carolina League, and the Frontier League Independent Baseball. Expression used in minor league baseball is I died in the Carolina League. I was released after my 93 season. And so they say, I died in the in the Carolina League.
Nice. Now, when we got to meet, I don't know, it was about 10 days ago or so, I asked you a question. I want to share it with you now. So when I used to coach, I didn't realize at the time, I used the term blue. And tell us about the history of the use of that term when someone refers to an umpire as blue, when it's okay to say it and when it's not okay to say it.
Is this a G-rated show or a PG-rated show?
I don't think there's any kids watching, and if they are, Jamie's warning us right now that. Go ahead and whatever.
As a professional umpire, I never blew anybody, so don't call me blue. As a high school and collegiate umpire, almost every umpire answers to blue unless they have a professional background. So in professional baseball, it's either Mr. Umpire or Jamie. It's my first name. I mean, we've been around them so much, they better know our first name.
Yeah, that's a good point. I did a little bit of umpiring in Little League, and it was just, it was a learned phrase, I guess. So my coaches used it when I played. I heard it when I umpired, and then when I got to be older as a parent, I used it not knowing kind of the history of the term, so it's good to know going forward.
Amateur baseball, it's it's a tough lesson for everybody to learn, because you don't answer to it as a performed professional, but everybody that has amateur baseball experience answers to it.
That makes sense to me. One of the questions that came up from one of our newer members, Geeker, I hope is watching tonight, is the implementation. It's not here yet in the major leagues, but I think they might be piloting it in some of the lower minor leagues, is this idea of an automated strike zone. Tell me what your thoughts are about Major League Baseball maybe one day implementing an automated strike zone.
I'll give you the short of it, and then I'll give you the long of it.
All right.
I hate it. Absolutely hate it. I think it's an abomination to baseball. For the long of it, first off, it takes the human element out of the game. The best expression I've heard is umpires don't get a reputation by working the bases. They get a reputation by working the plate. And good plate umpires don't drive Buicks, they drive Cadillac. So that's part of it. You're taking a two-dimensional way of judging a pitch, and trying to you're taking a three-dimensional way of umpiring a pitch and making it into a one or two-dimensional way to umpire a pitch, if that makes any sense. A good breaking ball can drop off the table and 3 feet in front of the plate, it's a ball, and when it crosses the plate and the batter, it's a strike. And there's so many variables. When you're taught to umpire balls and strikes, it's from the bottom of the letters, the pit of the arm to the crux in the knee, wherever the heck the crux in the knee is. A lot of guys will use the armpit, top of the letters, and either the bottom of the knee or the top of the knee. And the other part about that is you get known, are you a hitter's umpire? Or are you a pitcher's umpire? And I know a lot of that changed back in the 97 playoffs when Eric Gregg was calling everything for Greg Maddux. And I get that. That was an unfair advantage. And so Major League Baseball decided we're going to reel it in. But another interesting point is that it's a great way to police the game. A guy fusses about a pitch as a hitter, the plate kind of grows. It's a way to shut him up, put him in his place. And the same thing, if a pitcher's going to stand on the mound and throw his arms up and fuss and cuss and whatever, he's going to hit the postage stamp. So, and there's a science to it. There's an art to it as well. So what it does is it robs that for the umpires. And, guys, if it wasn't a big deal, guys in the big leagues wouldn't work it every fourth or fifth day, if that makes any sense to you.
Yep.
So I hate it. It takes away the human element. It takes away having an umpire involved. And I just don't think it's good for the game, because it's going to make it mechanical.
I actually agree, and I'll go a step further. I am not a big fan of replay in general. I do think there are some cases where it should be used, like in the postseason, fair and foul. Was it a homer? Wasn't it a homer? But what people, I think fans tend to forget is that, in my opinion, the reason these games are played is not to determine a world champion. The reason games are played is to sell merchandise and to sell ad space on TV and for it to be entertaining. And I think we're losing a lot of that with replay now. I live in the Milwaukee area, and Ned Yost was the manager here for about 6 years. And sometimes the most entertaining part of the game was having the umpire and Ned Yost go at it. And now if you can replay basically anything, it seems, I think a lot of the character of the game is gone. And, if it's acceptable for a player to make an error, why can't we accept if an umpire were to make an error? I just think we're making the game too sterile by being able to replay everything. And I just think, let's just play it out. And, most of the time things kind of even out, but to this day, I'm still not a fan of the way they're using replay.
I'm split, and we might have talked about this earlier, but it gets rid of the mule that Jim Joyce was with the was it the Galarraga perfect game?
Yeah.
And if we go back with that in instant replay, it's not a booted call, and Jim Joyce isn't hated, and so that will go. That would go on. Don Denkinger would not be hated in St. Louis for the call in the '85 World Series. There's so many games like that I think it takes the mule out of the umpire. It saves him because these guys work night in and night out. They probably work about 180 games a year. I know this season's 162, but you got to take the spring training games into account. So for them to just flat out boot one is rare, but it happens. It does happen. So I don't like that. I like that part of it. But conversely, one of the things that you see all the way down now is that guys actually have to put a tag on. And I know this is going to sound foreign for a lot of people, but it used to be before replay, good throw, good tag, even though it necessarily didn't tag him, bang, he was out, and nobody said a word. Manager didn't say a word. Ball player got up, dusted himself off, went back in the dugout, throw beat him. Everything was in line, and that stopped now. Now you have to actually hold it down there, tag the guy, and not just a good tag. You've got to make sure you tag him. And I know that sounds foreign, but you could see that in a lot of games probably before 2013, 2014, when they really started putting instant replay in for those purposes. And nobody said a word because it was the way the game was supposed to be. Same thing with the phantom tag at second base. It was a call to protect the shortstop or the second baseman from getting killed. Everything was clean. Everything was good. He might have been a half an inch, maybe an inch off the base. But if you popped it, nobody said a word because they know you're protecting their middle guys as well as you're protecting the other guy's middle guys. So nobody said a word. It's those little things with instant replay and the manual strike zone that are going to decimate baseball, if that makes any sense. It changes the game.
To the best of your knowledge, where are they using this right now? Is it just being piloted in some of the lower, like A-leagues, or is it being used at all at college, to the best of your knowledge?
College has a form of replay, but it's not a strike zone. Last year, the Atlantic League, or not last year, 2 years ago, because COVID killed last year. 2 years ago, the Atlantic League used it in independent baseball. And what's funny about it is the players hated it. The managers hated it. There was even some issues with managers and umpires because of it, because managers would come out and complain about the strike zone, and the umpires had nothing to do with it. And there's some nuances in the game. It's 11-0. It's 12-0. Okay, it grows a little bit. Things like that. It changes a little bit. You got a 6'2" hitter and you got a 5'8" hitter. It's obviously going to change. So what do? Recalibrate the machine? I think it's going to be used in the lower minors, is what I think it's going to do. And to me, the guys in the lower minors as an umpires, those are the guys you want to work the plate so they can get a feel for the game as they go up the ladder. It's more important for them to have a command of a strike zone than a major league guy because he's already done it for 15, 20, 30 years.
Yeah. So, Jamie, we're going to have, I can already see now, we're going to have a lot of questions for you at the end. We're going to give you an opportunity now, though, to switch hats, if you will, and tell us about some of your earliest baseball memories as a Pirates fan.
Keep in mind, every hat I'm going to wear is authentic. So the hat on my head is going to be anywhere from brand new to 40 years old, like this masterpiece right here. My first big league game was July 16th, 1973. And it's funny, I remember the game. I remember it was 1-0. I don't remember much more about it. I went back and checked the box score. Don Sutton was the winning pitcher. He pitched a complete game shutout. I want to say Hernandez hit the game-winning homer in like the 5th or 6th inning, so it wasn't dramatic. And the other thing I remember is my dad taking me and riding the escalator at Three River Stadium. As goofy as that sounds, I'm a kid from West Virginia. I'm going to the big city. That makes any sense. My second memory is in 1976, which I'm going to sport the mustard collar 76 hat, which is authentic. And I'll show you the difference when we hit 77. But in 1976, I went to a Padres Pirates game with my Little League. It was at the time and up to about 1987, I believe, it was the best attended game at Three River Stadium history with 51 and change. And the Bucks lost 6-1. But that was a great memory. And it was always cool as I went along. Oh, I was at the largest attendance in baseball history in Pittsburgh at the time. So I remember that greatly. And it's funny because, those little things, those little memories that baseball gives you. And I went to my dad with that one as well.
Nice.
My other is an authentic 1977 through 1980 Pirates hat. And one of the reasons why this is so important was the 1979 Bucks. I went to game 4 of the World Series. The Bucks lost. I was devastated, but I remember telling my parents, for some of you that know Pittsburgh, we were going through the Fort Pitt Tunnel, and I said, we're going to come back and win this. And I figured at the time it was just youthful enthusiasm and not letting my team, die. But it turned out to be true. It was a great moment, a great memory. I went to the most games this West Virginia boy had ever went to up to that time, and I went to 11 games that year, including Game 4 of the World Series. So that was great. That was a great memory. We're gonna move again. We're gonna go back to 1985, and the reason why I go to 1985, my son's first major league game had 2 very special memories for me. And let me look at a note because my memory isn't that good as I get old. It was August 23rd, 1985. Houston beat the Bucks 2-0. There used to be a major league umpire called Billy Williams. And I know everybody's going to think of the player, but no, this was a National League umpire by the name of Billy Williams. Matter of fact, he umpired in the 85 World Series with the Don Dinger fiasco.
Okay.
But he gave me this hat right here, which is an official National League umpire's hat. And at that time, you couldn't go to Mickey's Place or Lids or wherever and get you a National or Fanatics and get you an umpire's hat. So that was directly from the National League. And it was also my son's first Major League Baseball game, which is, as you go about things, is something very special. So moving right along, and this is a bad one, 1992, which I'm sure a lot of you will remember, especially if you're a Braves fan. The Bucks lost 3-0 in the 9th. One of the most peculiar things about the game, Sid Bream, who had about as much speed as me that scored the run, he lives in Cranberry Township, which is up here, which is probably about 15, 20 miles north of Pittsburgh. And is well liked here, believe it or not, even now. So, you just kind of, you're friendly with the guy, but you're like, doggone it, why'd you break my heart? And I can remember sitting in front of the TV after it was over for about an hour in just utter, stunned, dazed depression, if that makes any sense. It was just an awful, awful memory, but it's there. It's one of those, it makes the game special because it's not always going to be beautiful. The game's designed to break your heart. Let me look here. The next one was August 1st, 2000. That was the last game at Three River Stadium. 2 things that stand out to me, other than it was the last game at Three River Stadium. The Bucks lost 10-9. And you'll as you get past 92, you see that theme a lot, unfortunately. also at the end, they had some players throw baseballs, and introduced a lot of players. And my favorite player, my boyhood idol, Willie Stargell, threw out the very last ball at Three River Stadium. And it was very sad because he was in very poor health. And you could tell he was in poor health. And he couldn't even throw the ball to the plate. And, people still loved him. I loved him. It was an extremely, also that weekend, they debuted what his statue was going to look like that unfortunately he never got to see because he passed away in April of 2001. My next memory, and if I cry, please forgive me, was June 17th, 2001. Brian Giles scored from first on a 2-out double by Aramis Ramirez to beat the Cleveland Indians 1-0. But the special part about it was my dad, my brother, myself, and my son were all at the baseball game. So there was 3 generations of my family at the same yard, and it was my dad's last major league game. So that, that I think about that often. And it's one of those that I will never forget because, for lack of better terms, all the Howell men were together. And so it's pretty good time. And nice. my final memory is on a plus side again. It's probably been ongoing since about 2003, and there's been so many of them that I can't even pick out the date. But they're daddy-daughter dates. My daughter and myself go. I'm a 20-game season ticket holder, and it's usually Fridays and Sundays. Okay. And we probably go to about 90 to 95% of those Sunday games together. So it's a very special moment for the two of us. It's a very bonding moment. She gets jealous if I don't take her, and I hear about it. So and I know when I'm gone, she's going to remember that, and she'll probably be taking somebody special to the game herself. So it makes a big deal.
I remember this like it was yesterday. I taught my daughter how to score a game watching a Pirates-Brewers game at Miller Park.
My daughter has no interest in doing that. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the fear of numbers like her father, but she has no interest in it. Try to teach it, no traction.
Yeah, I mean, she's never done a whole game, but I remember I taught her it was a Pirates-Brewers game, and then for about a year or so after, she'd do like an inning or two, and then she'd kind of get bored. And then in the 2011 World Series, the Texas Cardinals, I have a video of her doing play-by-play for a half an inning. For the rain, and it's cute because she's wearing one of my suits, and I remember a guy walked on 4 pitches, and she just went, "Oh, that's a blooper."
That's what's unique and special about this game more than any of the other major sports. You don't see that in football. You don't see that in hockey. You don't see it in basketball. There's a sense of tradition that's passed down from generation to generation to generation, which I think is gorgeous for this game.
My favorite part of baseball is just the way, and I'm stealing this directly from Bob Costas, word for word, how at a game, the game just lends itself to conversation. You can't really have a conversation at a football game or basketball game. It's too loud. It's going too fast. You can talk to each other, but you really can't converse about it the way you can at a baseball game. I love one of my favorite things is taking someone who's maybe not such a big baseball fan, and then they leave a fan because maybe I've given them a little bit of an understanding of, why the game is slower, why that's beautiful. So I love it. If there's anyone watching tonight that wants to see their first game, I'd be happy to take you to a game.
If you're in the Pittsburgh area, throw me a message.
By the way,
but that's okay.
By the way, and I think some of my friends know this, and I'm not just saying this because it's a Pirates-themed show. I haven't said this at all, and I won't say it again. PNC Park is hands down my favorite park that I've ever been to. I went to 2 games in August of 2011. And then in April of 2017, I saw 4 games there. And PNC Park is probably the reason why I'd consider a move back to that area at some point. I love it there.
I am spoiled. I have to admit it. I am spoiled because I think it's the best yard in America, and I get to sit every day. My season tickets are right below the announcer's booth. I know it's the highest row, but when you're Irish like me, I call my Irishman special because in the day games I'm out of the sun. The press box shields me from the sun. So, and all those views that you see from pictures, those are the same views I see every game.
Yeah, the first game I went to was on a Tuesday night. It was against the Brewers, August of 11. I was, I believe, right below the press box. And then the next day was a day game, rainy day game, and I was about 4 rows behind the third base dugout. And I just knew I'd be back. And like I said, I've been to 4 games since. I just cannot wait to get back to Pittsburgh.
It's a beautiful ballpark. And I know in our conversations before, you like Permane Brothers. So
now Jamie's going to stick with us. We're gonna start to unveil the 2021 roster for the Pirates. And then at the end of the show, we're going to get, you guys have added a ton of questions and a ton of comments, so we'll get to those at the end here. Jamie's going to tell me where maybe we got wrong for some of these picks. But before we get to the roster, let's look at some highlights for their schedule coming up in 2021. It looks like the Pirates are going to open the season at home on Friday, March 26th. They're going to be hosting the Diamondbacks to start the season. On Memorial Day, they'll be at Cleveland on May 31st. Independence Day, back home against the Durham Bulls. Labor Day, they're going to be here in Milwaukee against the Brewers. And then
Durham
the Pirates,
on 4th of July.
Yeah. So the
Is
Durham.
is that an exhibition game or is that
No.
yearly?
So yeah, I should have prefaced this. This is the Utopian Baseball Universe schedule. So this is for this.
Threw me a curve.
And then the Pirates are going to finish their season at Cincinnati. So again, opening versus Arizona, at Cleveland on Memorial Day, versus Durham at home on Independence Day, Labor Day here in Milwaukee, and then finishing the season at the Reds. The manager for the Pirates, Chuck Tanner, is the skipper for this Utopian roster. He has given me his opening day lineup, and this is what it'll look like against Arizona on March 26th. Leading off and catching is going to be Jason Kendall. Batting second, shortstop Hannes Wagner. Batting third, center fielder Roberto Clemente. Batting fourth will be right fielder Willie Stargell. Batting fifth, left fielder Ralph Kiner. Batting sixth, first baseman Josh Bell. Batting seventh, third baseman, 2 or 3-time batting champion Bill Madlock. It's got to be great to have a batting champion hitting seventh for you. Batting eighth, World Series hero Bill Mazeroski playing second base. And then starting pitcher this year, this is one of the bigger free agent gets this January. Smokey Joe Williams from the Negro Leagues will be the ace of this staff in 2021, and he's going to get the ball against Randy Johnson on opening day. Jamie, what do you think of this lineup here heading into the 2021 season?
Make a couple tweaks. My first tweak would be to move Stargell to first base because Josh Bell just doesn't have the history.
Okay.
I would move Stargell to first, move Clemente over to right, move Trainer over to center, and put Dave Parker in left field. And I know that's not his traditional position. He's a right fielder, but I don't think he's as fast as Trainer was, but I'm sure he'd give it a run, especially early on in his career. And I don't think Clemente should be anywhere but right field, if that makes any sense to you. Other than that, I can say, yeah. Maybe tweak Kendall. Manny Sanguillen, I think, would fit in there, but he's not going to be a leadoff hitter.
Yeah, you're right.
Swung at too many bad balls to be a leadoff hitter. But I think he's got to do more than just catch on Sunday day game after the Saturday night game.
Sure. And this is part of the reason why we have guests on from the different fan bases, because as I've been saying every night, these rosters are fluid. If you don't see your favorites tonight, you're going to see them next year for sure. But let's get to that starting rotation now. Smokey Joe Williams getting the ball opening day. John Candelaria pitched very well for this Pirates team last year. He was probably the best starter. He's going to get the ball Saturday. Last year's opening day pitcher, Doug Drabek, is going to go Sunday. And then the Pirates are going to start a series with the Rockies. And the two starters that are going to start that series will be Francisco Liriano and Jamison Talion before Smokey Joe Williams comes around and starts again on that third game. The Pirates also have John Smiley and Harvey Haddix as potential starters if needed. They're going to start the season in the bullpen with Kent Tekulve as the team's closer, Jason Grilli, Richard Rodriguez, Joel Hanrahan. This one I probably need help pronouncing. Is it Dave Giusti?
Justy.
Dave Justy. Roy Face and Bob Kipper round out that bullpen. And then the rest of the position players for the Pirates to start 2021, we've got Spanky Lavalier, Al Oliver, Phil Garner, Aramis Ramirez, Archie Vaughn, Dave Parker, Andrew McCutcheon, and Andy Van Slyke. I know for a fact I'm missing some names here. Paul Wayner's not on the list. I don't have Bobby Bonilla, but like I said, based on the feedback that Pirates fans give me, there's going to be changes every year for these rosters because this is your universe. I want to make sure that I'm getting people's favorites in here, but it's so hard when you have to limit it to 30 a year.
No, I can say there's one I'd change in the bullpen, and a lot of people won't remember this, and I don't know who I drop, but Goose Gossage has got to be in that bullpen. He played for the Bucks in '77, and he's just flat out gas. I don't know who I drop because one of the things he doesn't have is longevity with the Pirates, and I go the same thing with Bonilla and Bonds. They really didn't have a career. They had a couple of good years, but not a career. So I don't even think they should be considered for the Pirates, if that makes any sense.
You're right. And Bonds is obviously represents the Giants in this. And then Goose Gossage, I believe I have on the Padres.
I can see that.
The hardest thing about creating this universe was getting guys on the right rosters. But like I said, nothing here is set in stone. If there's like obvious omissions, we're going to get them on the team next year. Jamie, we do have a ton of questions and comments. Would you like to? We can get to those right now. Some of these are just compliments for you. Matt Derby says, "Love it." A lot of people are just complimenting you for great answers for some of the umpiring questions. Someone said,
Derby, by the way, so
you brought him in,
Matt. Yeah, I paid him to say that too.
Oh, thanks for watching, Matt. Someone said, never thought of the policing perspective, so that's a good point. Here's a question that someone has for you, Jamie. Do you look forward to being behind the plate calling balls and strikes? Like when you were umpiring, did you prefer being the home plate umpire or did you prefer being a base umpire?
I prefer to be a home plate umpire. That's where your money's made. That's where your reputation's made. That's where everything, it's your time to shine. It's your time to show. One of the things it is that in baseball that it isn't in other sports, the plate umpire controls more of the game than any other sport, any official in any other sport, including the referee in football, because you control the tempo, you control the strike zone, you control, is it a pitcher's game? Is it a hitter's game? Are you going to make hitters swing the bat? Or are you going to make them set and go 4 or 5 pitches deep in at bat because you're more of a hitter's umpire as opposed to a pitcher's umpire and pitchers get ahead in the count? So I think your bread and butter is made working the plate.
I agree. I mean, the umpiring I did was at such a lower level, but I agree with everything you're saying. Someone says, I think umps should be asking for the replay and not the teams. Use all the resources, but don't rely on them. What do you think about that, Jamie?
That's not a bad idea, but you know what? And I'm going to switch my hat back to an umpire's hat, if you don't mind. And I'm going to go with my MLB hat this time. I told you I was a man of many hats. I don't like that because every umpire thinks he got every call right. And even when he knows he booted it, it's kind of tough to say, yeah, I booted it. Let's go to the replay, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Because it's a split-second judgment decision. It's in your gut that you think you're right. And then maybe a second or two after you call it, you're like, maybe I missed that one. And we all do it, and we all know it for the most part. But let's let the team make that decision instead of the umpire.
Somebody here says Jamie's on fire. I couldn't agree more. Jamie's been a fantastic guest. Someone said too much background noise. I apologize. We have a very small budget. That's the TV and the microwave. We're doing this show from a very small apartment, so I apologize for that. A couple of people just saying
nobody
hi.
said we were high budget folks. You know that? We're low rent people here.
This is still in its infancy. The first couple episodes of The Incredible Hulk in the 70s were pretty weak too. So let's see. Someone says, speaking of memories, have you met people at a ball game that you've become friends with, like meeting them for the first time at a game?
I have a friend that I hope is on here. Her name's Jamie Ridgway, and I met her as her husband was fixing the field on a rain delay in a baseball tournament. She has become a great friend. I tease her and call her an umpire groupie because she's become a great friend of us at this tournament we go to, and all the umpires. She's like our big sister, our mother. That's one of the friendships I've made. It's funny how I have so many friends from baseball that maybe not necessarily going to a game, but I've umpired with, I've coached with, I've coached them. It's just amazing how that works. And sometimes you don't see each other for years, and you pick it right up when you see them again. It's amazing how that happens. Two of my best friends on the planet, and I'm just going to go ahead and shout out to them, Chuck Arnett, and my other buddy is Jeremy Henthorn, who I know is not on here, but that's okay, are two of my most nearest and dearest friends, and our common bond is baseball. Chuck and I sit at baseball games and talk like two old men that have seen the game for 100 years. Jeremy and I umpired the game and have the same philosophy of umpiring and how to handle a game. So it's just, I mean, you and I are friends now because of baseball.
Yep. Jamie, by the way, joined earlier today. Jamie Ridgway.
Okay.
Matt Kirby, he still has his World Series tickets in hand from 91 and 92. I mentioned last night I still have my 2011 World Series ticket. I spent $440 on it the night they won Game 4 against St. Louis, and then they lost the next two. So I still have that. Matt also says he has filled-in scorebooks. He has more filled-in scorebooks than he has shelf space for. See that she sticks with it. So we're talking about scoring the games. Someone's asking, are you one of those people who sit in the highest seat at the ballpark?
I only do that because of the shades there. I would try to get as low as possible if I could. But I'm this guy, how fair complected I am. I'll end up as red as a lobster. I'll get scorched. So I like to sit up in the shade. Someone
also mentioned their daddy taught them how to keep book after or before they could write their own name. They too have every book from every team they've kept. That's awesome. Matt says, never gets old, Joey. Love it. Thanks for saying that. Let's see. Someone's asking, is this the Jason Kendall before the ankle break? Yes. Andy's excited for this lineup. Big bat. Is Andy Van Slyke on the bench to keep everyone smiling?
Sorry, Joe, I interrupted you, and I apologize, but I almost forget Jason Kendall did that. That was horrendous.
I know.
That was absolutely a gruesome injury.
I remember that, actually. Someone comments, we don't need Bonilla. He's getting paid to do nothing. Yeah, he's still getting paid by the Mets an annual annuity. And I saw something funny this morning. He's still going to be getting paid after Fernando Tatis's contract expires.
I don't know which one's a better deal, Tatis's or Bonilla's.
Well,
Bonilla's
I mean,
sitting around at the house getting $1 million.
Bonilla's, I think, it's a $30 million annuity. It's $1 million a year for 30 years, I think. So I'll take that.
I think so.
Someone is asking, I remember the Brewers beating the Pirates in like 20 straight games. Is that correct? Yeah, that was back in like 2008. The Brewers had a 22-game winning streak at home against the Pirates.
The Brewers owned the Bucks for a period of time. Even when, I can't even think who it was, beat up the wiener or the sausage. I can't even remember what Buck it was that did that.
It was Randall Simon. I was at that game with my daughter.
There you go.
I had to explain to her that it was like wrestling, like it was just staged, because she was crying. Because I think she was like 4. So yeah, I remember that. He actually spent like an hour in jail that night. Last question we have here is, do you have any interactions with any Bucks players?
I had a great relationship, believe it or not, with Willie Stargell. I met him, and this is I'll tell my date and how old I am. In the 70s and early 80s, there was no fenced-in area or block, gate to block your access to the players. The only thing, there was a trick at Three River Stadium that guys that really didn't want to be hounded went out of Gate C instead of Gate A. And that was the Pirates, because the team bus for the visiting team would be under Gate A. And that was the main player entrance and exit. So I learned, and I went under Gate C, and I met Willie Stargell and talked to him so much that he remembered me. And here I am, a kid from West Virginia that goes to and at this time I probably went to 11 or 12 games a year, and he remembered my name and remembered me. And that just utterly blew me away. When he came back to Pittsburgh after he was gone for a while and became a special GM or whatever they call them, my son and I were waiting, and he walked in, and I was absolutely awestruck. I couldn't speak. And my son says, "Dad, that's the first time I've ever seen you speechless." So I'm friends with Al Oliver, Mike Easler, and Bill Madlock on Facebook. Manny Sanguian too. I've talked to Sid Bream. I can give you a story about his son. His son played at a local high school I umpired. He actually had 2 sons that played there, and it was the younger of the 2. And his older son was drafted, and he was in the Diamondbacks organization. And the younger son, I walked up to him, and I was at work in the bases, and I said, "How's your brother?" And he looked at me like I had 3 heads. And he says, "Everybody asks me, how's my dad?" I said, "I know how your dad's doing. He's right up there in the press box." I said, "I just wanted to see how your brother was doing." And we laughed about it, and he told me how he was doing. Bream is a great guy. He's a very gentlemanly, godly man. You can see him do a lot of things in the Pittsburgh area. I'm trying to think who else that I've had personal relationships with. I forgot to mention this to you, but I was a groundskeeper in 2008 at PNC Park. I loved it and hated it all at the same time. Yeah, I hated it because we really didn't do much of the work except game day stuff. So we stood around all the time. But I got to meet Jose Batista, who at one time was my daughter's favorite Buck. Got to meet some guys like that. Some of them were friendly, some of them weren't. it was funny how the friendly guys would talk to you all the time, not taking a stab at the Latin American guys, but Latin American guys would fake like they didn't know English, so they didn't have time to talk to anybody. So that was pretty good. So, I mean, I go a long ways back with the Pirates. I've met a lot of those guys, a lot I haven't. And, you know, some I know Major League Baseball players. I know the name and I know the face. And one of the nice things, more than the Steelers and the Penguins here, you can see a lot of the Pirates out and about. If you know what areas they frequent and know what part of town they live in, you know, you can have a real good idea of, you know, who they are. So, and, you know, it's nice. It's nice living in a small but large town, if that makes any sense, or a small market major league team.
I miss the heck out of Pittsburgh. Jamie, we have to have you on again at some point. I know before the show we were talking about the possibility of doing like a regular segment in the group where you can answer some more questions, like ask the umpire type thing. And I'd love to have you do that this season. So let's you and I coordinate that at some point and have you back. And if the Pirates are doing great things, I'd love to have you on the recap show this year and talk more Pirates baseball.
Well, your Pirates will do a lot better than my Pirates will do, if that makes any sense. They're very young and not a lot there. And I really don't expect, you know, anything. I'll be happy if they lose less than 100 games. And I don't mean that in a negative way, because it's kids. It's absolute kids. One of the things I would like to mention is the Bednar family, that the dad coached at Mars High School. The one son is playing at Mississippi State, and in a trade, they just got his oldest son from the Padres. His name is David Bender, and he's on the roster for the real Pirates, or outside of the Utopian Universe Pirates. And I'm anxious to see what he does in his hometown.
And the great thing is, if he has success with the actual Pirates, we will probably see him wearing a Utopian uniform at some point in the future.
That would be nice.
All right. Well, Jamie, I can't thank you enough. You've been a great guest tonight. We're going to have you on in the future. Everyone else watching tonight, thank you for watching. Doubleheader tomorrow, 2 o'clock. I'm taking questions from 2 to 3 o'clock on a Q&A show. And then Tim St. Clair and I are going to have fun tomorrow night talking baseball movies. And we'll learn a little bit about the Colorado Rockies Utopian roster. So for Jamie Howell, this is Joey Buchholz. Have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow.